What's happening, everyone? Welcome to the Legged Podcast. Before this show starts, I just want to take a minute and tell you all about the secret perks you get if you sign up on Patreon. Now, to sign up on Patreon, it is £1 a week, that's it. And by doing so, you get early access to all our guests. You get an extra episode on a Wednesday that is only available just for Patreon members only. On a Saturday, we do a betting show where we've landed some pretty big bets, to be fair.
Yeah, cross footy and boxing and MMA.
We do live events, quizzes, you get early access to all them, and anything else we've got going on, it all comes to you first for those who support on Patreon. No better time to sign up. We've got about 100 episodes maybe of Patreon episodes, which are hilarious, if I do say so myself. All there available for you now. Get signed up. It's £1 a week, and we'll see you over there.
Right, happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to the SPORTCAST. A little bit different this week. Andy's gone, as he mentioned last week. He's gone to, he said Love Island, but we are yet to know.
Panto.
Yeah, there's a theory on Patreon going around that he's actually in Panto, which is a little bit of a funny one. But Jamie Neal's standing in for him.
What is?
Do you know what he's? I mean, you're new to this the SPORTCAST listeners, but for those of you that are not on Patreon, you made a bit of a big splash into the world of Patreon this week. We put out an episode on Wednesday. We're introducing Jay for the people on there, and it went down really well. So Jay's here now for the foreseeable until Big Andy Grant's back. But yeah, this is just going to be a little bit of what me and you talk about anyway, innit?
Daily, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Probably argue a little bit, disagree a little bit. But we haven't got no sponsors to announce at the minute. We're in discussion with new sponsors, so you're going to miss that little sponsor spiel at the start. But yeah, let's do it. I mean, we sat and discussed how we're going to start the show.
Yeah.
And there's only one place to really start, isn't there? The blue side.
Man, yeah.
The blue side of Stanley Park.
Where do you start is the question.
Yeah, people who've listened to the SPORTCAST for a while are obviously used to me sitting in that seat and sort of arguing back with Andy about this topic. But I'm not really like a bitter Liverpool fan.
No.
I don't really like to see what's going on. But, you know, even for Everton standards, this past 7 days have been about as chaotic, crazy and ridiculous as anything I've ever seen. But just from a Blues standpoint, for those that didn't know you had a blue, how's it been for the last 7 days or the last 2 days?
You don't think it can get any worse as an Everton fan, but
it can.
What the fuck has happened? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously from sacking Lampard to then, I don't know, the club's up for sale and the club's not up for sale, then all our players want to fuck off.
I mean, obviously Lampard going is the place to start. I think West Ham was 2-0 defeat last weekend. That's been like the second 6 points of the season. You obviously lost the other one to Southampton. So I guess that's expected. But it's like, it dragged on for a couple of days. Everyone announces it except Everton.
Yeah,
Everton.
that was to every news outlet and, Twitter account had announced it. And you got, Dan Duman, who was supposedly signing, is doing interviews with Sky Sports about signing. And yeah, Everton's official website and accounts and things is just silent.
I don't know how, like, obviously, that's the start of the week and things do get worse from there. But I don't know how, as a business or a football club, they're on Twitter. They can see everyone breaking the news. Why do you not react?
But then it comes out saying, everyone's kicking off over the silence, and then it comes out that the club's up for sale, supposedly.
Yeah.
And then they decide to release an interview with Mashiri, how he's saying he's not going anywhere and things like this. And just one of them, the whole club as a whole is just laughable at the minute, isn't it?
It's becoming like a bit of a pantomime now for everyone just to sit on the pitch, laugh at Everton, make, Paddy Power, every other like joking around Twitter account is making like cartoon reels and stuff like that. And it is funny. I'm as childish as anyone. I do laugh at them. But a club the size of Everton shouldn't be bringing this sort of stuff on themselves, and that's what you continuously do.
No, it's sad, like, but it's been coming for a while, you know what I mean? And I think, we survived last year, and then, you're naive if you think we're just going to go straight up the table. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. And look, I didn't expect us to be in another fight, but I expected us to be around the mid-table and, you know, bottom half of the table. But it's not just on the pitch where it's going wrong now, you know what I mean, which is scary. It's like things happening in the club, you're just bewildered how it's being run, and like how it is such a big club to be run, you know, effectively, but it looks like by clowns, you know.
That Mashiri gets me because he's obviously clearly very wealthy. I don't actually know much about his background, or from what I do read, I don't actually believe, because it's all a bit cryptic and stuff. But to make decision after decision that just comes out to look so stupid is like baffling to how he got that amount of money. Do you know what I mean?
But like the things when he went against the fans, saying the fans, you know, appointed managers and stuff, with whether it's the Benitez thing or what. And then after the West Ham game, I'm sure everyone's seen the clip where Mashiri said it's not down to him.
Yeah.
And Ken Wright just goes, bad times. And you're like, what the... You know,
Bad
like,
times.
It's Everton Football Club at the end of the day. It's like, I know they haven't been as what over the last few years, but still an enormous club, as you say. And like, what I think we're like one of the founders of the Prem, you know what I mean? And like, it needs to be sorted out, because the way it looks, if, you know, whatever gaffer comes in, if no players come in with him, I can't see a way out of them, you know what I mean? Last year, I think everyone could always see a way out, because we had players like Richarlison, that who would, and the team were united with the fans, and there was always that belief that we'd get over the line. But this year, you know, I've been to a few games myself this year since I've been back, and it's toxic in the ground, and the team is so bad. You know what I mean?
And the team are bad.
And it just doesn't look like... I just can't see a way out unless something dramatically changes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, so we lose. Well, Everton lose Frank. They then, you know, this stuff goes on about clubs up for sale. No, it's not up for sale. I want a minority stakeholder. I don't. Then it looks like you're getting someone in the door on loan who, rightly or wrongly, definitely improves your starting 11.
Yeah.
He signs. He's replying to people on Instagram. He's doing media. He's got his shirt number. He just needs to send off the docs. Backtracks. Goes and signs for Southampton. Southampton.
Tottenham.
Goes and signs for Tottenham Hotspur, and just leaves Everton in the lurch. By all accounts, hasn't replied, and just, you know, is now standing with his pristine white Tottenham shirt.
That's what I mean by being an Everton fan. You think, fuck me, this can't get any worse anyway. And then something like that happens, and you're just like, what the fuck's next? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like that Dan Juma thing. I think, you know, I don't know how much you can blame Everton, because you're in a situation where Everton have done what they need to do to sign him. You know, everyone's asking for the player. They've got the player. They've identified him. They've gone through the proper channels, and they've got the player. But why on earth are you attracting players who will do stuff like that? But I get that where you say they're attracting the players and stuff, but like, as a lot of other Everton fans will know as well, we've been told a lot of players have been across the line. Like, I remember last season with that Kudos, I know that blonde kid who signed for Chelsea was linked with us, saying that he was sharp when he came against Liverpool as well, saying that you know, across the line and things like that. And, you know, Diaz, who now at Liverpool, that was supposedly done deal with Everton. I mean, so there's a recurring theme with them not getting the signatures done, and, you know, only they know how and why. But to look at Everton now, from what we were with Ancelotti, where we look like turn the corner, and, you know, big players like the Rodriguez, and obviously I know it's Ancelotti who's getting them in, but it looked like we were going to start attracting that type of player. And it's gone from like there to be back here in the space of, I think it's less than 2 years or something. It's just like, canal. Well, Hammers and stuff was COVID, wasn't it? Yeah. So like, we are like 2 years removed from that, but still, like, to go from, you haven't like gone from I know Ancelotti didn't perform miracles, but he had you going. But to go from him, you haven't just gone down one level, you've gone down like 3 or 4. I think with Ancelotti, it was a mentality shift. Like, going to Anfield and always behind with no fans and that, but going to Anfield and getting a result and effectively, like, you know, playing us off the park. And we just looked like we weren't scared going to Tottenham, getting a result. We just looked like we weren't scared to go to places and get results, you know what I mean? And now you just, I can't remember the last game I watched at Everton where I fancied us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, which is even at Goodison, as I say, I've been Goodison the past few games, and it's just like a shell of a place, and it's sad because obviously it's our last few games in Goodison, and to see it like that is just like,
yeah. I think I think that's a great phrase. I think you are, as things stand, a shell of a club, because you know we're from an era where obviously Everton haven't won things, but you know our dad's told us about stuff. You look historically, I'm around a load of Blues a lot anyway. It's you aren't some 2-penny little tiny club just sitting off somewhere that no one cares about. You're massive, do you know what I mean? And I think it's a big job for whoever goes in, but as things stand here, you know, Dyche looks like, we record on a Thursday, Dyche looks like the warm favourite.
Yeah, we were just checking the betting then. I think he was 4-6 favourite.
Yeah. Closely followed by
it's a 2-runner race between him and
Bielsa, and then after that, you know, it's the usual candidates.
But it's as you say, I'm an Everton fan, I love Everton, but the job's suicide, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're looking at them players, I know a few of them play for Burnley and things, with Dyche might entice him a little bit, but
it's an hard job.
There's got to be players coming through the door one way or the other, otherwise we're banging trouble, you know what I mean?
We stand 6 days from closing of the January transfer window. I've seen a couple of rumours today about the likes of Harry Wilson, who used to play for Liverpool, who's a decent enough player but can't get in the Fulham team. If I personally, like people who have listened to the Sportcast for a long time, I've championed Sean Dyche for quite a while in terms of when like he brought teams to Liverpool, and Liverpool fans would get on our perch a little bit and be like, oh, they just come to ruin the game, they just come to foul. And I was like, that's what Burnley are meant to do against Liverpool. And the reason I think he's a good fit for Everton is because I think he's tactically better than he gets credit for, but I think he plays to his strengths and isn't scared to own it. So he would find Everton's strength and play to it, maybe keep you up and then try and kick on after that. I think if you get a manager in who's going to succumb to, this is how I think the fans want me to play, you're going to go down anyway. You need to have someone who's got not only the confidence but the the experience to say, I know a way of playing that works. Yeah. It's not now the manager has to buy into the fans at this point. It's I'm coming in, you have to buy into what I'm doing. Yeah. Don't be booing in 5 games. A bit like me and you had this conversation, and I guess it's a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but Sam Allardyce done a thing the other day and he was talking about he took Everton from 16th to 8th in 22 games. The facts don't lie. I'm not saying he's the best manager in the world, but he did do that. Do you know what I mean? And I think at some point the fans are going to have to get on board. I think the
only difference in kind of that argument now is when Allardyce was in, the clubs around us are getting 5-10 players through the door, you know what I mean? Then it was kind of the top teams are building and the bottom teams are scrapping it out. It's so different now because the bottom teams around us are getting bodies through the door left, right and centre, and we're just sat there like lemons, just like, I don't know what they're expecting, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you've stood still and got lapped, and I mean, it's going to be a conversation we have when we come on to Liverpool about standing still and losing your footing in the league. But I just think now, I don't think you've ever had a more important manager selection.
No.
Carlo Ancelotti is an opportunity that presented itself that you had to take. Then, you know, you made a crazily stupid decision with Rafa Benitez, but anyone with half a brain cell knew that was bad. Lampard was an educated gamble that hasn't paid off. You can't afford another one now because the situation's too critical to have someone not work, and I think that's why, in my opinion, Dyche is a better candidate than Bielsa, because I think Bielsa is a very good manager, but it takes time to get what you want to do with him, and he's also volatile. Like, you know, he will.
I think you can make an argument for both managers, really. I think Bielsa is kind of no shit policy. It's what our team have been screaming out for years, you know what I mean? If you don't want to be here, essentially, there's the door, you know what I mean? I think Bielsa brings that, but as you say, like, it's, you know, we're going to find out, but they've got, I think it's 18 games left, is it?
Yeah. Well, we're essentially halfway through the season, aren't we?
I think the next 18 games, cliche and all, but they're all finals, you know what I mean? And you just need someone who's just going to bring the team together and just get results any way possible.
Yeah, I think, you are halfway through the season. It's a scary time.
It's possible because everyone has seen how close the league is. I mean, two wins on the bounce and results go your way. You're sat in 14th and it doesn't look as bad, but you can fall two losses. You can fall even deeper. You know what I mean? So it's we'll wait and see and just pray. But I think majority of Liverpool fans, bitter or not, I don't think they half want to see us go down. I mean,
I don't because first and foremost, it's horrendously bad for the city, and I know people will be sitting here and listening, going, "Oh, shut up! It'll be good banter and all that." And you do get people on Twitter who are like, "I hate the Blues," and I get all that. Rivalry's what makes football, but in the grand scheme of things, I genuinely think if you go to the Championship, I don't see you coming back. But we had, as people will know, if you are on Patreon, you can get involved with the Sportcast and ask some questions. And with Jamie being on today, the questions were a little bit different because there was a lot to unpack about horse racing and also Everton, because it's usually two Reds sitting here. But TSB, who gets involved on Patreon quite a lot, made a good point, and I'd like to know your thoughts. So TSB says, why are Evertonians being hoodwinked by a billionaire and the logic of modern football that leaving an actual football stadium, which has historical first in the world, from floodlights to undersoil heating, because I think you were like the first to employ that sort of thing, to moving into this new ground that is miles away from a train station in Liverpool or a bus stop and isn't connected well to the area of North Liverpool, and you have to walk from one end of town to the other just to get there, and you can probably add on another 2 miles. The club's on the brink of relegation, and which could see the stadium keeping it in financial ruin, a bit like what happened to Derby County and Coventry. But plus, isn't the reason financial fair play is a problem for Everton is because of the outlay of the stadium? I believe we should have redeveloped Goodison.
I think he's got a great point. Like, I think, I'm not sure, but I think it's a split decision whether people want to leave Goodison or not and go to a new stadium. I think the worry is, when I followed Everton home and away a bit, I went to, West Ham's Upton Park, bought a stadium, and then I've been to the London Stadium and soulless, yeah. You're miles away from the pitch, like you can't really get an atmosphere going, and it's their own stadium, So I think if you're worrying if that happens, because Everton are known for, the fans and lifting the team, being a toxic atmosphere, like when you come there, it's a tough place to go. So that could be a worry in itself. But what he said there about like accessibility and not getting there, it's another factor. But I think it matters as well. The club's kind of rash decisions over the past few years, and look, it might turn out great, but it might also, as he said, it could have been better just developing Goodison, and what a stadium it is. And I know it's a bit old-fashioned and that, but it's obviously a lot of history there, and so yeah, we'll wait and see. But I kind of agree with what he is saying.
I don't think you can recreate atmosphere. I think atmosphere comes from not just the people in there, but it's what's like in the walls, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And I think
it is, yeah, it's going to be hard. I think the modern day kind of players, they want the best facilities, and that's how I can kind of see it from that point of view. And if we're going to be a big club, we need the bigger facilities, and Tottenham Stadium is an unbelievable stadium, and it's kind of theirs, it's worked out for them. So you can look at it both ways. I suppose it's a bit like the whole thing at Everton now. It's kind of wait and see and fucking hope for the best. Yeah,
I mean, moving on to the other side of Stanley Park, it's not all rosy over there either. Obviously we started our weekend, the 12:30 kick-off last week, with one of the worst games I've ever watched in my life. Liverpool-Chelsea. Yeah. I mean, just two teams sort of floating with mediocrity at the minute. And I just think Liverpool are in a position where, I've been quite happy with like Klopp's saying he's not leaving and all that stuff, but he's here for the fight. But on the pitch, we're just in, like, I know it's probably going to be hard for you to listen to as an Everton fan, but when you see the drop off of what Liverpool were just 12 months ago to now, it's so hard to comprehend. And I think our fans are, ridiculously spoiled, but I think we looking, when after that game, we have fans who are on there about, like, once we get Bellingham, everything will be fine. Yeah. Or like once we do this, everything will be fine. Not really understanding that when Klopp did the first rebuild, he didn't just sign Salah and everything was fine. Yeah. Didn't just sign Mane, I don't know whether he got Mane, but he didn't just sign you know, Thiago and everything was fine. It takes time, takes ages to get going. And I think Liverpool, Jack Smith, again, another valued member of our Patreon, he said the same thing. Bellingham isn't the answer to all of the Liverpool problems, but he could give the fans something to get excited about. He's basically, Jack's just asking, you know, where do we go from here? Because we got players like Gakpo's come in and people are already giving them stick. It's tough. It's tough as a Liverpool.
I think the thing with Liverpool is you've hit a spot where a lot of players are kind of underperforming, and you know, certain players might be coming to the end of the career or whatever. But it can change like a light switch at Liverpool. If Salah picks up a bit of form, starts banging, and then you got world class players like Jota and Diaz to come back. And if Salah starts banging, then you know Gakpo might start banging, and then you know what I mean. It can easily turn. You have still got a very good team. You know what I mean. Yeah, I know you got a few kind of coming to the end and stuff, but I think you just still got a strong enough team there. I think it's more forward used than kind of like real worries. You know what I mean. Obviously, you're a different scale because you want to be challenging for the title and Champions League and stuff, but I don't think he's just too far off at kind of getting back there. You know what I mean?
Ultimately, like when we've played 19 games, we've got a game in hand on Man United, who are in 4th. You know, we're 10 points off. You could be 7 with half a season to go. Last season, or maybe the year when we went closer to City, we were 7 points off them with 4 games to go or something, and we were like, we can do it. So you got half a season to bridge a gap, and you know, we'll come on to Arsenal in a minute, and that game against Man United was brilliant, but you know, I don't mind having a 7-point gap to the likes of Newcastle and Man United, because no one can convince me they're going to go sort of on a run where they don't drop any points.
I think Newcastle have, since kind of the new year, slowed up a little bit. I mean, they've had a few draws and things here and there where you'd probably see them winning before Christmas, you know, or before the World Cup. But I think United is again the same. Once they get, if United get a defeat or 2 defeats on the bounce, then see how they react from it. You know what I mean? They could, you know, they've a big shift in mentality as well. They could drop the confidence, and then, you know, the whole table looks different. I think it's a close league this year, apart from Arsenal at the top. But I think it's close from bottom on top. You know what I mean? To kind of change in a heartbeat.
But I mean, like from on the pitch to off the pitch, like I hate this, and I think I've spoke to you about this before. But I hate chanting in footy of, like, you know, the murderers thing, and you know, Liverpool, I've seen it with my own eyes. We sing songs about Munich, and 3 fellas got arrested on the weekend for singing homophobic chants to Chelsea fans. There's video of Chelsea fans singing murderers.
I've seen it,
and nothing happens. Like, how can you just pluck out 3 people from the crowd and go, you're getting arrested essentially with a criminal record going forward? But this video just doesn't mean nothing. You're never going to stop it. You're never going to stop people going like... I mean, I guess you're never going to stop it anyway, because football does attract idiots. It's just a way of life. But you can't just arrest 3 people and expect, like... Because I can imagine them sitting there around a table similar to this going, oh, if we arrest 3 people, you know, they'll know we're serious about it.
Probably the opposite, though. Just kind of add more fuel to the fire, and you know, people aren't going to forget about that, and then the next fixture is going to be twice as worse and toxic. So it's like, it's one of them, innit?
It's not all doom and gloom elsewhere, like Arsenal. I mean, that game, I said to you, the game against United, one of the best football matches I've watched in a long time.
I said to you, from early on, I think they're going to go all the way, and I think everyone's been waiting for them to slow up and fall off, you know what I mean? But the thing is, similar thing when, I know Arsenal are a massive team, but when Leicester did it, everyone was doing, oh, they're going to fall off soon, they're going to get beaten, and I think eventually it comes, you think, maybe they're just a fucking good team, you know what I mean? I think Arsenal, I know Leicester fell off a bit now, but I think Arsenal now will be up there for the years to come, you know what I mean? It's kind of, they love the manager now eventually, and everything seems to work, and they've got a young squad of fearless kids who are just running ragged, you know what I mean, every week.
I think, watching them, I was so impressed with them. I mean, Odegaard for me is probably the best informed midfielder in the league. But you've even got the likes like Saliba, you know, Gabriel's gone up a couple of levels, like Saka is like, he's always had ability, don't get me wrong, and I've always thought he was a really good player, but like when he comes inside and against Luke Shaw and he just puts one, that was what Mane was doing. That was like that level, you know what I mean?
Me and Andy, funny enough, had about an hour argument on the plane over to Vegas about Saka.
Oh, did you?
Like I've been a big fan of him, and he weren't having any of him. He said, oh, he's overrated, and his time in England, they're playing in the World Cup, and we went out one day to watch the match, And Andy was giving it the big one that he hates England and all this, and he's a Liverpool fan, and he's there screaming his head off when we scored. But I think after that game, I think England versus, I think it might have been France, you know, whatever. And I think that day Andy was kind of converted and said, you know, what playing, I mean.
Talking about that though, like, obviously he's in good form, and I know he did play for England, but then, you know, you got Rashford in the form he's in. Couldn't
get 4 minutes or something.
Yeah, he was getting like 4 minutes in the biggest game, despite being, I think he was one of the top goal scorers.
He was the top goal scorer.
But like, even him, like Rashford, I've actually played against Rashford, little name drop there, but he's always had ability, but like, he never had the consistency. But now it looks like that goal against Arsenal, it's just genius.
Even his one last night against Forest, he picked it up in his own half and just ran with it himself.
He can be some player, Rashford. I think he gets a lot of stick, but I think Ten Hag, you know, I've said this a couple of times in Sport. I think he's a really good manager. I think he's got something going at United, and I think he could be the front of it, because they have got players like Anthony and Fernandes and stuff who are really good players, but you could see them being replaced by somebody eventually. I think Rashford, if he continues in the form, could lead that United team. Do you know what I mean? And the last bit of news is it's a bit of a, not funny, like you shouldn't laugh at drink driving at all, but Joe Linton got banned from drink driving for a year and fined 29 grand. He had 43 micrograms of alcohol per 100 ml in his breath, which is just above the limit of 35. So he's been given 12 mil and 29 grand.
Heavy that, like.
Do you reckon? I mean, heavy for me and you.
Yeah, heavy for me and you. But he's probably not last. He's probably, he'd get a lift into work every day anyway, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So.
I bet it, I mean, I probably don't even think he knows, like, that'll have even left his bank.
No.
He's just like, 29, can someone else,
be surprised if he even paid it.
Yeah, you know, probably the club will pay. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to digest with football. I mean, we conveniently skipped a little bit over Anthony Gordon going to Newcastle. But do you know what? My thoughts on it, just to round off football before we move on to, you know, boxing and MMA and golf and whatnot, horse racing. The thing with Gordon is, I think it's best for all parties.
I think so, and look, you can say, I can see both parties. Obviously, you can be angry on an Everton fan point of view, because, you know, you want players to stay and fight for the club and that, but at the same time, as like a young lad and like footy player, like, I know he's supposedly an Everton lad and that, but why would you want to stay in this club?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? You got a chance to go to, I think he's going to Newcastle to go and play, you know, potentially Champions League, and earn probably double what he's on here, or stay here and probably get relegated or be in another relegation battle. And what's to say, if he stays this year, what's to say we're not in a relegation battle next year and in a relegation battle? And how long does he have to stay before everyone's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and the thing, you know, when Rooney, I know he's obviously not the player Rooney is or was, but when Rooney left and like the likes of when Barkley left and that, essentially it's all forgotten about when it comes to the end of his career, you know what I mean? So, you know, if I'm taking like being an Everton fan out of it, I don't blame him.
No, I don't. I mean, Newcastle right now is probably one of the most attractive clubs in the league, if not Europe.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
I know there's the argument that, look, Everton are a well bigger club than Newcastle, but, you know, in real world now, Newcastle are, the sky's the limit, and Everton are fucking doom and gloom.
Oh yeah, it's a completely different trajectory, like, to be a Newcastle. I mean, I don't know if there's a more excited fan base in Europe than what Newcastle are.
Exactly,
you know what I mean? And, you know, you can look into the ethics, and we've had this conversation about being owned by Saudi and all that, and I understand it, but, you know, as Newcastle, I'm not a Newcastle fan, but I expect that most of them sitting in them stands are absolutely buzzing, because, you know, as we've established a couple of times, fans don't truly care who owns the club. They just want the club to win, and you know, whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way it is. But moving on to the wonderful world of boxing, we were actually at Smith Eubank on Saturday.
What a night, to be fair.
I've been buzzing just to get on the show and speak about it, to be honest. Atmosphere wise, probably the best atmosphere I've ever been in for a boxing event. It
was electric, to be fair.
I mean, the ring walks were just
Smith's ring walk, Beefy's ring walk. That was one probably the best things I've seen like live. It was
I don't know if people picked up, but like a minute or two before, the whole crowd was singing "Don't Look Back in Anger."
Yeah, he's singing Oasis.
we were well.
It was like without even I think they played a bit of the tune, didn't they?
And
then it went silent, and the whole place was singing it.
I mean, we had a good night, you know. Obviously on the undercard, you had a very disappointing performance on Joseph Parker, but then you had Richard Riakporhe, who's now been on Sky, talking about a fight with Lawrence Okoli. And then obviously the main events, like I did the betting show and sort of told everyone not to really get involved because I didn't predict Liam Smith would win in 4 rounds, but I thought something weird would happen because of the way the midweek went in terms of, you know, the Liam talking about, as Chris got something to come out with, and Liam's took a lot of backlash for that, and Chris talking about Liverpool having loads of unemployed people and all that stuff. I just thought the fight would ignite, you know what I mean?
I'm all for the trash talking at me. Like, I don't mind if it's getting a bit dark, you know what I mean? Makes it exciting, but I know there's a few, whether people call them soft or whatever, there's a few people that don't really like it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, which is fair enough, but I enjoyed it, mate.
Do you know what? Like, I actually enjoy it. I think it's part of boxing. And I've listened to it loads of times, and look, Liam shouldn't have said it. He should have just, you know, went another way along it. But what he's actually said is not that offensive.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I know gay people, and I'm really struggling to see what part that he wasn't saying you're gay. He was just saying, have you got something? Look, it's close to the line, and I get that, but it's not like it wasn't. I didn't find it spiteful. Do you know what I mean? I just found it like misinformed.
And I don't even think his intention there was just to kind of embarrass him and get in his head. And that game, the top level of the sport, them little mind games and tricks and that, I could win you a fight. You know what I mean? And it looks like, you know, he probably did get under Eubank's skin, and Eubank did probably underestimate him. You know what I mean? And but you know, taking on away from it, what a performance! Like we were obviously there live and watched it live, and we said it kind of in the early rounds how strongly Liam looked at me, and kind of when they were kind of even leaning on each other and things, he looked like the stronger man, and I think from there we couldn't really. I know we had Chris winning the next 2 rounds, but I think eventually we always fancied kind of Liam to go and get the job done.
The first round really surprised me because I've watched it back and there was a couple of moments where they got in tight and you could almost see Eubank thinking, my God, he's strong, him. Do you know what I mean? He's just, there was a point where Liam grabbed him and then just sort of brought him round and sort of pushed him to the other side of the ring, and you could see Eubank as if to say, like, that's not happened to me much. And I've fought like Groves and stuff, and and then I think Liam, there's a point at the end of the third where Liam gets a bit of a rollicking from Joe McNally, but he's smiling. It's almost to say, like, you're playing my game here, do you know what I mean? I've got you going. And then I mean, the combination that finished it for me is just special. And yeah, I've seen people now saying it was an elbow and all that stuff. It's like, it's not, it's a clean shot, and you know, you can see why the referees let him even recover from that first knockdown. I mean, we at that point were like stood on chairs and screaming. But
I always think it's a tough one with the refs, because like they stop it and they say, oh, he stopped it premature, and if they don't stop it quick enough, and it's a bit like that. It's an elite fight. It's like the main event.
Yeah, give him a chance.
Give him a chance. I mean, I can see it looking, if he knocks him out and he doesn't get back up or he ends up injured, then, you know, you look at it different. But kind of, I was kind of for the ref letting it give him a chance to recover, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, what a performance. Absolutely took his career to a new level. And we've had a couple of questions on Patreon from Jack Smith, John McLeish as well, just saying, like, what's next? And it's anything he wants. Like, he can sit and wait for the rematch and say, I want it at 158, 157, so he's had an advantage. And then if Eubank doesn't take it, he just go, oh, you ran away from me. You could quite easily do Kell Brook fight, whether people say it's a good fight, crap fight, whatever. It sells out and it's pay-per-view, fact. And he gets paid a boatload. He could stay up middleweight, fight Golovkin if he wanted to.
That'd be, from a selfish point of view, that'd be the fight I'd want.
Yeah, a big Golovkin fan.
It's because Golovkin's probably my favourite fighter, and I wasn't able to go to the Kell Brook one, so, you know, if Golovkin retired and I didn't watch him live, I'd kick myself for the rest of my life. So from a selfish point of view, Beefy, if you're watching, go for that fight.
I think, you know, I think that's it. Look, it's a great fight for him, and I think there's a lot of money in it. But I just think, like, I genuinely think the Eubank rematch, I know people come down and go, it's conclusive, you don't need a rematch, but that is huge, mate.
It is, yeah.
You know, because, as you rightly said in football before, we all have short memories. As soon as that fight got made again, you know, Eubank could come up with something, and then people would be like, he's going to beat Liam this time. And everyone would go, Liam's going to knock him out quicker this time. As you see him in 4 rounds, the styles match up well. The personalities match up well. fans are dying to see Liam Smith again. Wherever you put Liam Smith next, it sells
People
out.
are watching, yeah.
Because that ring walk is about the best ring walk in boxing.
It was.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Unbelievable.
but especially in British boxing, and I just think, you know,
I think with all, I'd see it again, especially the build-up would be toxic again,
Yeah.
and whether they do talks about doing it at Anfield and things, and trying to get Callum on the card and things like that. So, I think no matter, as you say, where Liam goes next, there's going to be millions of eyes on him. So, but
and I actually thought on the other side of it, I thought Chris Eubank handled himself well after it.
yeah, he
You know,
did.
like,
No, to be fair,
shook his hand.
He showed a bit of decency and class. Didn't he?
Weren't like going, you know, I know he said you caught me with a punch of a lifetime, but there was no sort of like complaining. As I watched him physically shake Liam's hand, you know, after it, he's put videos out sort of with his son, with his brother's son, who's like obviously passed away, and he looks after him. I think he gained fans in it as well, which again is why I think it's huge. And you know, it's just a great night all round. But one rematch that won't be happening. Taylor Catterall. We watched them have a little bit of
we watched them have a little bit. We could see them ringside, and they were having a bit of a go at each other.
Who sat them next to each other?
Had to be separated, yeah. But think I'm a new fan of. I didn't really. Obviously, you're a bigger boxing fan and working it than me, but I weren't really sure who Jack Catterall was until that fight, and watching him, I kind of become a fan, and I think I'd be rooting for Catterall over Taylor.
$4,000 that would have won me.
Yeah.
We were so for anyone who doesn't know, when Catterall fought Taylor, I actually tipped Jack.
I remember that. Yeah, I think that's why I kind of watched, and I think I might even had a go on it myself, and
7-1
from that night. It's kind of I become a fan, and no, I'd love to. I know it's not happening now. He's injured, is he? But I think it's a genuine hate between each other. And, I think whenever it happens and wherever it happens, there'll be some scrap. Like
I think stylistically they match up so well. They're like, you know, I just don't think you can get a boring fight with it. I do think Josh Taylor underperformed. I don't think being with Ben Davison was the correct partnership for him. He's now with Joe McNally and Declan O'Rourke, who are flying in the rotunda. You know, just look at what they've done with Liam. Just turned his career completely around. They got Kevin Ajago, who's been on the podcast. You know, Thomas Whittaker-Hart, who's on the edge of a big rematch in Liverpool. You know, they got some great fighters in there. And now they got Josh Taylor. I do think that'll take Josh Taylor's game to another level, but I don't think that was the best Jack Catterall that can fight. Yeah. I remember watching Jack Catterall in 2014. He fought Tom Stalker, and he stopped Tom Stalker, and from that night, I just always believed he would be a world champion, and it throws up the old debate of, like, you know, it could have been Jack Catterall's night, in, you know, when he fought, and can he pull it off again? Then who knows? But you know, I think them two are sitting on, you know, another gold mine for when that rematch happens. But someone who didn't cover themselves in glory was Conor Benn, who me and you were big fans of.
Massive fan of Ben, yeah, and
I was really
begging it not to be true, kind of, when it come out, and whether it is true or not, I don't know, but like, doesn't look good him like doing all these videos and that, does it? And before he's even back in the ring about Eubank and things like that, but
you say he's now turned it around like he's like the victim in
I
it
know,
all.
and it's a shame really, because I think he had a lot of fans, and I think a lot of people lost respect for him, and I kind of think everyone would be waiting for him.
Especially a video like that after Eubank's just been knocked out.
Yeah.
You know, he lost that fight, and you know, he lost the fight with him on a day's notice in October. Turns it around, fights Liam, gets knocked out, and then he's in his living room like, oh, they knocked you out in 2 rounds. But you couldn't, not because you were putting shit in your fucking ass or something. so yeah,
I think he's lost a lot of respect from a lot of, even I've seen like a lot of fellow fighters
saying shut up.
So I think he's lost a lot of fight, like, with people who probably did respect him in the sport as well, never mind just fans, you know.
Yeah. Moving on to this weekend, we've got an unbelievable fight on BT Sport. Artur Beterbiev, who's just an absolute monster. 18-0, 18 KOs. He is 38 now, but, you know, born in Russia, fighting out of Canada. Got the scariest box rec picture you'll ever see in your life. But obviously comes to London to fight Anthony Yarde. And I put on Twitter yesterday, like, I make Beterbiev the clear favourite, and I think he'll win, but like, I don't agree Yarde's got no chance whatsoever. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't really. I've watched a bit of Yarde. I haven't, to be honest, really watched that
Beterbiev,
yeah. But I watched a little bit of like few previews last night, and that Yarde comes across like I do quite like him as a fella, you know what I mean? And Not sure about his team, like.
Sunday's an idiot.
All
Yeah.
that shouting lines in the camp and I was like, trying to watch it in ours, like, with the Lions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that, yeah, and I'll be watching it, and you know, I'd love to see him do the upset, but that fella's like 18-0 with 18 knockouts.
Yeah, but he's got
They're a heavy pair of hands then.
Like they're a real heavy pair of hands.
So
I mean, he's got the thing is as well, he's got like this deft touch, and I get it, but he's a decorated amateur as well. He's got brilliant amateur boxing fundamentals. He brings it through well. He's not just this slugger who's throwing hands. He's setting it up perfectly. You know, Callum Johnson had him down, but then you know he gets up and just absolutely obliterates him.
I think that always, if he has been down, it always gives you half a chance if you can bang them in, because you know, he's proven he can go down, and if you back yourself to kind of finish him once he's down, then you know, it gives you a chance and belief. So
to be honest, like, and people might call this bias, that's the reason I believe Callum Smith will stop. Would be Beterbiev, and the reason I think Callum Smith, I don't think Callum's a better boxer, like actual fundamentals of boxing, but I think Callum's got such a ruthless finishing streak that I know people go, well, didn't have against Canelo, but that was Canelo, and you know, it is what it is. He might not be as good as Canelo, but I think at this point Beterbiev as well, but that's why I think if you have got a ruthless finishing ability, you have got a chance of putting him away, which I don't think Yarde is guided well enough to do it, because if he drops him, his corner won't be calm going, do this. It'll be like, Lions in the camp.
I watched like some highlights and I was thinking, just give him some instruction, like screaming Lions in the camp, put it down his face.
But like, that's what he does in the corner. Like, I remember a fight, it was the Lyndon Arthur fight, so Yarde's got 2 defeats on his record. One to Kovalev, where he got knocked out in the 11th round, and then a split decision loss to Lyndon Arthur, which he eventually knocked Lyndon Arthur out in the rematch. He's losing the fight. It's like round 9. And he's standing in front of him going, you know what to do, champ.
Yeah.
Lions in the camp.
I don't like that. And like we discussed over I think Anthony Joshua when he fought Usyk, and obviously I was a big Joshua fan, and it's clear, like, I'm not a boxing expert in no way, and like, but like, it's clear he's getting beaten, you know what I mean? And like his team is saying to him, oh, you're winning, champ, and all this, and it's like, surely you can't be, you'd rather someone just say like, you fucking, I think the best thing is if Leon Edwards, like, his corner screaming in his face saying, come on man, like, you're getting beaten, you know what I mean? I think that's what you need, and then, you know, Leon Edwards changed his life with that kick, you know what I mean? And I think that's the, well, if I was a boxer, that's the corner I'd want, you know what I mean? Someone who's just being, because when you're in there, I'm guessing,
you don't know, like,
you don't know what's going on, you know what I mean? Because you're scrapping, but like, when I watched the highlights of that Yarde and the shouting on his face, I was just thinking, you helmets.
And I think that's why you'll never, personally, as I say, I don't give him no chance this weekend, because I believe he's got power and finishing ability, but that's the reason I don't think he'll ever sustain a run at world level, is because you need a team. Joshua's shown it. Like, if you've got yes men who are just there to get their 10% off you, you're screwed, because everyone's good at this level. Everyone's a killer. Everyone's got crazy power. You need what sets you apart, which is usually a corner team. But obviously it's a great fight that I'll break it down on the betting show, whether I do video or article. Some people prefer article, some people prefer video, so there will be a betting show this weekend now. But yeah, talking about Joshua, he's got his next fight looks to be set in stone. Jermaine Franklin, who just fought Dillian White on April, this is going to be on April Fool's Day in London. So I think it's a good fight for Joshua, because you know he's going to have a new team, and I think he needs to get back to it. Jermaine Franklin's a good fighter, but I do think Joshua can get to him.
I see talking about another Joshua fight's been announced, and I see a lot of people arguing, saying, you know, why is that fight pay-per-view? And then I see on the other hand, the Yarde fight, everyone's saying we can't believe it's not pay-per-view, and you know how good it is that it isn't pay-per-view. So I don't know, like, the politics in boxing, but do you think it should be pay-per-view, Joshua?
Yeah, because Joshua's pay-per-view star. Like, Joshua could fight KSI. It'll be on pay-per-view. Like, I've got no problem with pay-per-view stars. What I've got a problem with is, for example, when Kell Brook fought Frankie Gavin on pay-per-view. Like, there's certain people in the world who I believe are at a certain level, whether that be socially or ability-wise, who should be pay-per-view. Like, you know, Canelo, Anthony Joshua.
How come Yarde and Thingy aren't pay-per-view?
Neither of them got to follow him.
Yeah.
Like, Yarde fights at the Copper Box or whatever. think this is at Wembley Arena, but he fights at the Copper Box or the O2, doesn't sell it out. Beterbiev's just an absolute lunatic. He was born in Russia, lives in Canada, and doesn't speak to anyone. He's not like he's got thousands of fans coming over, but he's just about his business, though. Yeah. He's not about having fans and being on social media. He's just looking to take people out. And I think there's different. Joshua is a massive
he's a global
product,
superstar.
Like, so get comfy with it. And look, I'm not. There's been. No, I'm gonna absolutely have plod knocking on my door here. But there's fights of anti-Joshua's which I've bought. And his fight of Anthony Joshua had found a link on Twitter.
Yeah, in his stream.
So do you know what I mean? There's no pressure. But I just think, he's a pay-per-view star, and that
no matter who you
that's what it is. But yeah, it's another good weekend in boxing. Moving on to there's a couple of things to cover in UFC or MMA as we call it. It's difficult because UFC is the massive promotion. You always tend to say UFC, but we're coming off the back of the light heavyweight title getting won by Jamal Hill against Glover Teixeira, who's then retired inside the octagon. I mean, did you see his face?
Yeah,
43. Like, he's a tough man. I don't know how he got through the fight. To be honest, I had a bet on Franklin to win inside the distance at evens. First round, I thought. I mean, his corner should have pulled him out for one. They didn't. But just a crazily tough man at 43. Hope he goes on to enjoy his retirement. But I think Hill's a bit of a star, to be honest. Comes across really well.
I watched obviously I watched the highlights of the thing, and I didn't see it live, and I watched a few interviews afterwards, and we were chatting about that tweet, didn't we? He obviously...
Oh yeah, he got put in business class flying home.
Yeah, flying home, and he was smuggling all the free food and drinks back to his mates and the normal thing. I mean, it obviously just shows the type of fella he is, and people like that, I think, and like Leon Edwards, people can buy into that, and kind of, I think he'll end up with a massive following.
Yeah. I mean, he's hilarious on Instagram. He does like certain things, like little funny reels and that, and then he does stuff like that. And I've been a fan of him for a long time. He's the first fighter to come off Contender Series, which is Dana White's Contender Series, and then become a UFC World Champion. So he's automatically got a big billing. The fight with Yuri Prochazka, who beat Glover Teixeira to win the belt, but his shoulder subsequently fell off. That's a huge fight. He could potentially fight Pereira, who just knocked out Adesanya. Like. He's like 31. He's got 6 kids, by the way. he's got a lot of women like that. But he's the world's his oyster now, and I think on the back of that performance, he broke down with emotion after it. For me, like, just go on a run now. Do you know what I mean? Go and change your life. And as you say, he's got a load of new fans this week. There's a great performance, and just go and milk it, as you say, and just run with it. But there's no UFC this weekend, but we're closing in on Makhachev Volkanovski, which is again another huge fight. But a couple of things did happen in the world of mixed martial arts at the weekend, none more so than
man Conor McGregor.
Who me and you have a lot of jokes about. But he announced last night that he did the Ultimate Fighter, which is like, I think you know it anyway. But it's for those who don't know, Ultimate Fighter is a reality TV show where 2 fighters in the UFC coach, basically. So you get a couple of upcoming fighters on that team, and he's the head coach. A couple of upcoming fighters.
Everyone's seen the clips in that.
Yeah. So, and then they live in a house, they fight off, and a couple of them get contracts. And then McGregor was brilliant on it. Just went when he was doing the stuff with the Uriah Faber, saying you look like a 40-year-old skateboarder. But then he's put out a tweet saying, I want back in, and now it looks like he's going to do that again before his return in the summer. But they're just talking about who he does it against. Is it Michael Chandler? Is it Jorge Masvidal? I think Masvidal is the one. Yeah. Which would be, because they could both fight at 170. Conor's obviously an absolute rhino at the minute. He's no way he's getting to 155. They could both do it at 170. I think Chandler could probably go to 170 as well. So it's again, but it'd be good to see him back on that. But just when you get a good stuff about Conor McGregor, something just follows right behind him. And this week he has allegedly
throw a bird off a yacht or something.
Throwing a woman off a yacht in the deep seas of the Ibiza coast.
It's a mad party, that.
I mean, I've read a couple of articles about this, and I've listened to a couple of podcasts of really good journalists, and I just cannot get to the bottom of it.
If it was in like a little quiet place, like on the coast of Spain or something, I mean, like, yeah. But the fact is, in Ibiza, you just think he's obviously being on a mad party, and he just thought, off you go.
Well, she's apparently Irish.
Yeah, well, let's see. The thing I read up on it was She's from the same neighbourhood as him, and he bumped into her in a club or something. Said, "Do you want to come back to the party?" She's come back to the party, and then as the night's gone on, he just thought, "I don't want you here." Started arguing with her. She said he slapped her or something, and then
Made her walk the plank.
And then launched her off. And then she's come out saying that it weren't him or something. It was his mate. And then when she got back to Ireland, she said, "Oh, it was him."
I mean, I'm not laughing at the situation of him throwing another human being off a yacht. It's like the craziness that follows him around, and obviously she's ended up in the water, being rescued, but then hasn't filed anything with the police or the Guardian or whatever they call it. Then gets back to Dublin and says it's Conor McGregor, and you know, as things go on, I think this will eventually end up being settled and all that stuff. But it's like
someday he's gonna just think, let's just fuck these parties off and just chill out.
Quiet life. But no matter what he does, there's always something like this around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I can't wait to see him come back.
I think everyone's the same.
Like,
there's no, you know, I know Paddy's obviously kind of the face of the UFC at the minute, and he's the kind of showman, and he's like big mouth on him, and you know, everyone wants to watch him. But apart, take Paddy out of it, there's not really that many who are like the McGregors, you know what I mean?
There's no one, and never going to be anyone like McGregor.
Yeah.
And I understand what people say, like, oh, why would you be excited about him coming back when he's this like this type of person? I'm not saying he's a good person.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say I'd invite him to my kid's christening, but like, for what he brings to MMA,
the entertainment side of things,
yeah,
he's undeniably, he's funny. He's obviously,
you want to watch him get knocked out, or you want to watch him knock someone out, and that's just.
It comes with his press conference and that, his quick wit and that. You can't, well, I can't help but laugh at him no matter what he does, you know what I mean? And I think to have his face back in the sport, everyone's going to be tuning. You're going to see his face all over Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and that, you know what I mean? And he's going to be, he's a real genius, isn't he? Like the real you can make of him. And I just think the week leading up to the fight, or the weeks, everyone's going to be tuning in.
Well, I think if this works out, they'll do Ultimate Fighter, and then he'll return in International Fight Week, which is usually around the 20th, between the 20th and 30th of July in Vegas, and he'll blow the roof off the gaff in Paddy's words. But someone who had a big old run-in with McGregor, Jose Aldo, who's now retired, he got inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame this weekend for having
he's crying
one of the most amazing careers ever. And it was nice to see McGregor say, Aldo's a legend, because I think for everything that went on between them, do you know what that means? Pussy. but like the for everything that went on between them and the 13-second thing, and I'm the king of Rio, I'm your daddy, and all that stuff, I do believe there was respect there, and I think the reason Conor performed in the way he did that night is because he was terrified of what could have come the other way. And you know, Jose Aldo in himself has had an amazing career, but you know, he's also played a huge part in building people like Conor McGregor as well. But just a couple of going off boxing and MMA, just going on to a couple of random sports stories, I guess. John Rahm has been playing golf with Gareth Bale. Seen this?
Yeah, seen that, yeah.
So Gareth Bale obviously recently retired, probably got more money than he knows what to do with, has been playing, you know, golf for a couple of years now over football. But apparently, according to John Rahm, I know he's going to play in a pro-am anyway, isn't he?
Yeah,
but now John Rahm seems to think that he's got the ability to even go on further.
Well, I'm a keen golfer, as you know, and I watch a lot of golf, and you can kind of, you know, even when you play with lads and they have a nice swing, you can respect a nice swing, you know what I mean? You can see a nice swing, and watching him, like, I think he plays off I think he's a scratch golfer, but he might play off 2 or something. His swing is so natural,
like his left peg.
Like his left peg, yeah. And I think he swings right-handed, which is...
Does he,
yeah. So I did as well. Left foot, right hand.
Yeah, but you're not Bale.
Nah, I got left foot.
You like the Omen Bargain Bale.
Yeah. I like the pub version of Bale with no pace. Yeah. But I watched him, and I watched him and John Rahm play a bit of golf. And he played a few holes, and he's got a bit like, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to watch. Like, I'll watch it. And you know, if he's got, I don't think John Rahm was bullshitting. I think he actually...
John Rahm, someone who I've laughed at in the past, but the way he spoke about it was just making me laugh. He you can't be so good at professional football and golf at the same time. It's just not fair. You can't be dedicated to one thing and have this much talent at golf. It's not fair in the slightest.
I see the fella who was kind of behind the camera interviewing them as they were playing. He said, "Oh, who would win? Like if you had to play one game of footy and one game of golf, who would win between both of you?" Jim Ram's like, "You fucking joking, mate." Imagine me playing footy.
But no, I found that really interesting. As you say, when he plays the Pro-Am, I will be watching myself. Another weird one. Did you see the whole Rory McIlroy and Reed thing? I mean,
I did see that. Yeah,
it's a bit weird. I know, Patrick Reed's part of Liv and Rory McIlroy stood against it, and I know there's a legal case going on, and I believe that Rory McIlroy was served with papers from Patrick Reed's team on Christmas Eve, like legal papers. And then he goes over to shake his hand. Rory's saying I didn't see him, throws a tea at him. But I just think, I know the PGA Tour have got some sort of Netflix series coming out, but I need to see one that involves all this crosshairs of Liv and that, because, me and Andy have said it loads of times, it's give golf something to speak about. It's give us something to speak about golf, and, I mean, I think Rory's being a little bit of a bitch, I'm not going to lie.
I think he's just he said so much and come so far that I think he's got no other way than to just stick by what he said and just, you know what I mean?
Just sort of go out on his shield, because
got
to be a part of him, I think. Should have just went over though. You know what I mean? Just should have just sucked the dough. Should have just sucked the dough. But finishing off this week's show, something that we don't really talk about, only every couple of weeks, but with you being on and being a jockey, we thought we'd introduce a bit of horse racing.
Yeah. There's a few questions, isn't there?
There's a couple of questions on Patreon which I'll run to you to finish off the show, but I think just two talking points that I've picked up on is obviously the great Altior seems to be very, very ill at the minute.
Way, yeah.
So I seen his collar, and without coming across completely dumb, why is that so dangerous?
So it's basically it's like a twisted gut type thing, you know what I mean?
Oh really?
But effectively, if you can get it sorted, if you can get it sorted, but if you don't get it sorted, essentially it can kill them, or they have to be put down, they can't recover. So horses get it and kind of, they show signs, they might be in the stable and just start sweating for no reason, or they might just go off the feed, or they might just like be dead agitated or whatever, and a lot of the time it'd be a twisted gut, and you can, there's way you can take them out for a walk, or you can put them in the horse box and take them for a drive, and it kind of eventually it sorts itself out, and they'll pass like all the waste through, and then it won't be a problem. But I think some severe cases, it can obviously lead to them unfortunately passing away. But I think Altior's having surgery, I think, so hopefully they get it sorted, touch wood. And
it was some horse, like
hell of an horse, yeah. And I think not everyone wants to see him have a long happy life in retirement eating grass, which he deserves, so
for what he's done, like
fingers crossed he pulls through. And but essentially that's kind of, it's a twisted gut, and it can obviously bring a lot of complications with it.
Like obviously now, I'm a more of a jumps fan than I am flat, just because of the way we grew up. But obviously we're approaching Cheltenham at the minute, and horse racing becomes into the spotlight a bit more. But there just seems to be negative press all the time.
I know,
whether it be the BHA.
I think
there's just, like we talked about McGregor then. Horse racing just does itself no favours, in my opinion.
You talk about, we were talking earlier in this podcast about how bad Everton are running things. The governing bodies in horse racing are like so bad.
Just what, dated?
It's just dated, and like they have people at the top of the game in the governing bodies who have never sat on a horse in their life, and they don't have a clue about day-to-day like life of an horse, a jockey, a trainer, an owner, blah blah.
Well, like on the ground level,
they just don't understand like the foundations of horse racing. They're treating it as like a business or whatever, which is fine because there has to be, but they just don't understand how it works, and that's why the sport has been so left. It's one of the biggest, most watched sports in the UK, and it's and you look at America and things, and Hong Kong, how big it is over there. It's been left behind in England and Ireland, even like financially, and kind of the way it's just so quality-wise, dated, quality-wise. And I think it's showing now, like we're getting a lack of good quality horses. They're all going to abroad, and you can't blame them. And the scary thing is, if it doesn't get sorted out soon, I think the days of horse racing are numbered, you know.
But to be honest, there's a question here, and I went off on Darren Garmy asked a good question. I went off on a bit of a tangent last week about, you know, how bad horse racing can be. It was about the Clarence House where it was just 3 entries, and I was saying a lot of jockeys, once you take the helmet off, you know, they could be winning grade 1s or group 1s every week. Take the helmet off, no one knows who they are. They can walk through the crowd at the horse race and no one will know who they are. And Darren Garmy pops up and just says, all right lads, just going back to George's view on horse racing last week about how much more exposures jockeys would need to get out the characters and stuff. A question for Jamie: if they did a fly in the wall Drive to Survive type series, who would be the best characters to look out for, and would there be enough drama behind the scenes? But there's already been one on Amazon, and it wasn't marketed at all.
Yeah, so there's one on Amazon, whoever hasn't watched it, called Horsepower. And it follows O'Shea Murphy, who's a good friend of mine, and is attaching with Andrew Baldwin, which was my first job in racing. And Andrew and his family and his wife Annalisa are unbelievable people, as we obviously know because how they dealt with us and stuff. And their whole setup and the way they do is just, you know, I give everyone should watch it, because it is, if you're into horse racing or even if you're not into horse racing, because it's a real good insight. And Oisin is amazing in front of a camera, and he's so like articulate how he gets. He explains things. He'll explain things a lot better than I can explain them, and the majority of people can explain them. But there is a thing like that, and it didn't really get the exposure I think they would expect them. But I think a lot of people have watched it. I don't think many people have had bad things to say, you know. And it's called Horsepower on Amazon Prime. So if anyone wants to watch it, I would.
Should have been front and centre loads.
I know it should have been, and it would entice people more into racing, because it is a great way of life, and it shows how well the horses are treated and how much it means to the jockeys. Because I know a lot of people think jockeys are cheating cunts or whatever their opinions are on them, but it shows how much lads care, and it gives you a real good insight. So I would recommend everyone to watch that.
There is enough characters. Well, I've obviously you, and I've met people inside. There is enough characters, but for one reason or another, racing just wants to continue to be this like insulated place. Don't come in. You'd even see people like, you know, when you're a certain person going into racing, you're almost blocked about you know what you can do and how you look, and it is annoying. But to get into the rest of the questions, just to round off the show, a lot of them are horse racing based. So Paul Miney asks, "Hi lads, with Cheltenham 8 weeks away, any thought on the anti-post market? Seems crazy some of the prices. Do the jockeys and or the yards talk about it like punters do?" Just from me, I'm not really someone, I enjoy betting obviously, but anti-post market for me is, I think it's a little bit showing off. I think you've got to get it perfect, mate.
And it is tough, because at the end of the day, the horses aren't robots, you know what I mean? They can get injuries, and they can, like, you know, be sick or muscle strains or whatever. So you take a risk, but I suppose that's what you do it for. And I think, you know, a lot of the lads who, you know, were not jockeys last year, I know people who watch racing will know about Constitution Hill. He's a freak. You obviously know about him. He's a freak of nature. And last year he obviously won the Supreme, and he was about 50-1 at the start of the season. And obviously a lot of the lads who, you know, work for Henderson, like, obviously see what he was doing at home, and I think they had a few quid on at 50s and 60s and 70s, and that, I mean. So when you have an horse, like, them horses are obviously few and far between, but when you have an horse like that, he's such a big price, and you know where he's going to kind of be panned out, then it can work, you know what I mean? But yeah, anti-post, it's tough, because a lot of complications we've seen now in the race, you know.
I think the annoying bit is when, like, people, you know, we got all these Twitter betting accounts and betting tipsters and all that, and a horse will win at like Warwick on a Saturday, and then someone will be like, I've got 150 quid on him to win. A lot of it's bullshit,
it's like,
you know what I mean?
It's like, especially this far out, obviously when does this get posted? Tomorrow? Yeah, so this far out, so a lot of horses that are running the Cheltenham Festival in 8 weeks will be running this weekend. I know there's a Noble Yates who won an entry the other week, and I think he's about 7-1 for the Gold Cup. He runs in the Cotswold Chase this weekend at Cheltenham. So if I was like, oh, I fancy Noble Yates, then if he goes and wins by half the track this weekend, he's not going to be 7-1 come. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I can see kind of why people do it through that thing, but
you need to know exactly where they're going.
You need to know the route and things,
I think I'm going to contradict myself because I am having a tenner a week on Delta work doing the Grand National.
Yeah, you got a little soft spot for him, haven't you?
It's the Black Hood, lad.
Like the national, like
Yeah.
it's a lottery, you know what I mean? It's throwing darts, but there's actually a horse this weekend that runs Mr. Coffee at Doncaster, and I think he might be aimed at the Grand National, and I think he's made to be a national horse, yeah.
Nice. Moving on then, John McLeish says, question for Jay, mentioned Jordan a week in our Patreon episode. If people want to go back and listen, it was a brilliant chat. We had a laugh about your terrible dress sense,
fashion choices.
But we also had a good chat about, you know, your career and stuff, which is great. When you mentioned about jockeys replacing food with alcohol, is that a decision between drinking and eating, and how much weight are you or generally a jockey cutting before the race? What techniques will they be using? Salt baths? And what like sort of food you're intaking? He's not asking your calories, but like what's a usual process?
No, it's like a lot of the lads, I think it's more common on the flat racing because the weight's a lot lighter. You know, the busy days kind of, I've spoke about it on the earlier in the week, but you wake up to ride out and you probably go straight to the races, and then you race, and then you come home, you drive home, and you're up early again. So a lot of the lads don't have time to be prepping meals left, right and centre and eating healthy and wondering what they're eating. A lot of them are just stopping the services, getting a snack, carrying on it could be a 6-hour drive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and you know, getting rid of weight, majority of it's water weight, you know, because they're at the kind of lowest anyway. So the rest is just water weight. So that's why the kind of lads tend to, not every lads, look, there's lads that do it properly and things like that, but like I'm just talking about like the majority of a bunch of lads, alcohol because it's water weight, and it, you know yourself, if you wake up hungover, what the first thing you want drink, because you're dehydrated, you know what I mean? So they wake up, they're dehydrated like mad, and they'll like the lightest, and then it gives them a bit of an head start. It's not the right thing to do, but it's just reality of what actually happens, you know.
It's so different because, you know, as you say with boxing, it's making weight every day. It's an incredibly hard thing to do. But I know you cut weight quite sensibly, don't you, when you've got to do it in terms of using the bath and stuff?
I very rarely, like this weekend I'm riding at Doncaster, and I've got to be I think I've got to be 9 stone 10, which it'll be pretty low for me, you know what I mean? But I've got a couple of days to prepare for it. I haven't got to ride up until then. Some of these lads will be around today, tomorrow, all the way up until Saturday, you know what I mean? You won't have time, so it's just one of them. It's not the right way to do, but it's reality, and that's what they do. They replace it because it's water weight.
Yeah. Moving on, we've only got a couple more. Adam James pops in with a nice one saying, are your footy tips any better than Andy's?
Well, that's it.
Look at RJ getting on.
Andy's ever give anyone a winner, is he?
This is a good one. Tom asks, if you had a choice to ride any horse at Cheltenham this year, who would it be?
I think the obvious one is Constitutional in the Champion Yarde, because
it would just be the best spin of your life.
Just because he's a monster, and he's a kind of horse that you just sit on, push the button when you want to go, and wave goodbye to your opponent. So he'd be the obvious one, but he's going to be a heavy favourite. But if I was to pick one, like an outsider or whatever, it'd probably be Mr. Coffee, who runs this weekend.
Well, yeah.
I think he runs in the amateur race at the festival. He was second in it last year. He runs this weekend, and I think if it was me, I'd have nothing to do with him, but I'd be aiming him for the Grand National. I think he's an horse who'd stay all day, and so I think as a kind of outsider one, I'd probably be Mr. Coffee in the big amateur race.
Nice. Joe Williams asks, who's the best jockey in the world at the minute? Can be from jumps or the flat. Go for your mates, lad, you rat.
Best jockey in the world on the flat at the minute. Well, I would say Oisin Murphy.
Yeah, when he comes back, but Holly Doyle's incredible, isn't she?
Holly is insane, and like an insane professional. And look, we're very spoiled. We have on the flat and over jumps, we have unbelievable talent. Like Holly is what she's doing, not just for women, but for the sport. She is, and you know, there's not another. She's about the height of this table, and but
so strong. She's
like ridiculously strong, and I see her in the gym and stuff, and you know, she can lift kind of double her body weight and things, and like she's a bit of a freak, you know what I mean, and the loveliest girl as well. So I'd say on the flat for me would be a mix between Oisin and, you know, Oisin, James Doyle and Holly Doyle, you know, and over jumps, the Bowen brothers look exceptional, you know what I mean, James and Sean. I think in the future it's going to be them two battling out for the championship, you know, and it'd be good to watch because they're both brothers and they're a good relationship, but I think them two are going to be the very top of the game for a long time. But right now, if I had the choice to put someone on my horse, it'd be, I know he's a watcher of the podcast, so it'd be Sam Twiston-Davies.
It's right, Sam, lad. 2 more we've got, this is a good one. I'm not going to read out all of Matt Lowe's one, just so I can get on to Jack's as well, but he's just asked, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions before you go out? And if you don't, have you ever seen any mad ones in the weighing room? Anyone having a little, as I said the other day, having a little Peroni?
Nah, I don't really have any, to be honest.
No, I didn't think you would. You're not. Like, I would have loads
honestly,
of hours risking my life, mate.
Yeah, I just rock up, have a bit of laugh, I go for a run round the track, have a little snack or something, and then just chill. Yeah, just I usually sometimes we used to be banned from having our phones in the weighing room, so like it'd be a bit, everyone was like, but now you can have your phones in there, so everyone just has their headphones in or looks through racing or whatever. But there's a few lads have shaves and get showers and that before the race.
Like prison.
Honestly, it is that. But I don't think anyone, not that I've seen, have got real, like, there's no like superstitions.
Be funny, someone in the corner doing Bikram yoga.
But like, it actually, to be fair, like a lot of the older lads have kind of moved with the times a little bit themselves. They do like the odd stretching and yoga and that, but majority of lads just fucking lay around just having a laugh.
What a job. Yeah. Jack Smith, to round off the week, been a great episode. Jack said, yes lads, one for Jay. You might remember me tuning his ear off at the grand final. So Jack is the patron that we invited to the grand final.
He's a funny kid.
We had a great day with Jack. He's a top lad. Keep in touch with him to this day. But he said, what's your biggest and most memorable moment of your career so far?
I think the winner at Ascot was massive, and like just to do it on like such a, I think it was on Clan's house day, yeah. So it was on a big Grade 1 Saturday, and like the ITV cameras in there and that were there. So I think that was probably my best win, and obviously I think riding winners in America was a great feeling as well. But I think my first ride at Aintree, when I rode a horse called Big Marcher for trainer Harry Whittington, and I made the running with Sam, and we were chatting kind of the whole way round, and I think I ended up finishing about 7th or something. But to be out in front with Sam the whole way, and the horse was just, it's probably to this day the best jumper I've ever ridden in my life. Like, he just foot perfect at every single fence, and the stands are packed, and the whole day was just kind of one I'll always remember, you know.
Boss. And that's us for the first Sportcast featuring RJ. We'll be back again next week. Andy is still MIA, so we'll be back for the Patreon episode.
Like the Masked Singers.
Yeah, rubbish. But yeah, so if you're not on Patreon, come and get involved. It's brilliant over there. We have a great laugh, you know. It's a crazy community. But if not, enjoy your weekend. We'll be back with the Sportcast next week, and thank you for tuning in.
Have a good one.